Nice. Classic. Solid can. 7.5. Welcome in. Cheers. No punts allowed. Adam
Cheers.
and Paige. Masters. Lots of stuff going on. Sports.
Yes.
Spring games. I have spring game thoughts. I know your spring game stance before we entered in. Yes,
Yes,
but these
I'm anti-spring game.
We've got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, how are you? You are home now. You were in Arizona last time we connected, so you're homebound.
Yeah, I have not been in my quote studio in a while, and I'm back with the bobbleheads that everybody loves. So I'm happy to be home for a little bit at least. Been on the road a lot going on over here. So happy to be sort of in a little bit of off-season mode, not crazy off-season mode.
It's we're 2 weeks from the 2 weeks from the draft.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited about, which starts to get weird, especially as a Jets fan. This is my Super Bowl because they suck so bad. So this is the time where we have hope runs eternal. We got lots of football things to talk about, including our rankings. But let's start sad. It is sad.
Yes.
Dwayne Haskins, the news that comes out, obviously gone way too soon. I don't know how to say this. And every time it was painful, honestly, to see media people try to say this. That was maybe the worst part, Paige, throughout all this. Beyond the tragedy itself was media people try to show a soul in talking about the passing of another human being, whether it was Adam Schefter or, oh my God, the Gil Brandt stuff. But beyond that, God damn it. Just God damn it. And I think from a college standpoint, I watched Ryan Day's press conference. I don't know if you saw that. You could feel the soul of a program in Ohio State. You could feel his soul. I think he spoke to the connection, Ryan Day being in the job that he's in, perhaps because of Dwayne Haskins. And so often we try to quantify someone's, eulogize someone through their accomplishments. He was really, really good in college. And I think I could do a full stop. God damn, it's just young people passing like that. I think to me, it's hard to quantify it in words, just quite honestly.
Yeah, I think sometimes in the industry that we're in, it's so easy to criticize, and whether it be them as a person, them as their performance on and off the field. I don't know, there's just something that it really struck me how hard it was for people to separate the two. I mean, for everybody, normal folks like ourselves, it's very normal to be wow, he was a human being. That's so devastating. That's your first reaction. And for some people, they're so programmed to be in this journalist mode, robot mode of this is the information, that we sort of forget that these people are people and have loved ones regardless of the performance or their trajectory through the NFL. That stuff is very secondary, very secondary.
Yeah.
And like you said, his impact on Ohio State, the way we viewed Ohio State in terms of the larger scale, Ryan Day, everything, he had such a big impact. And I'm sure we don't even know the impact he had on people personally. And so that whole situation with the Schefter tweet and, people saying certain things after his death was just kind of a reality check that hey, some of the people that even on this podcast we're going to criticize are still human beings. They could be gone at any moment.
Oh, yeah.
Just a reminder that what they do on a football field doesn't actually matter that much. There's so much more to life. But I'm glad that we get to say, you know what, that is such a tragedy, and I am praying for his family and his loved ones, because I can't imagine losing someone that way so tragically. And it's hard. It's hard to think that we get smacked with that reality. It feels like a lot lately.
It is. And I will say, just from a college, this is a college football podcast, but just from a college football, we put these titles on players, when they go to the NFL, which I always take very personally to begin with, right?
Yeah.
To me, my connection to a player is what on the college football side, what they brought. And yes, I guess secondary to the life, father, the husband, son, all of these things. He was really good at Ohio State. People forget, when I think of Ohio State, Justin Fields and CJ Stroud and this engine, unbelievably gifted, and the accomplishments on the college level that we wrote about, that we watched, there's some lasting memories there in terms of connections to it. But yes, That is still secondary to everything. And it does. I see people tweeting and I see like Adam Schefter doesn't mean to sound insensitive. Like
No.
that's just a freaking mistake. Like you have a guy that's trying to do too much that has honestly owned it. I thought was pretty cool. Maybe a couple of days late, but like is trying to do too much and trying to quantify his people's accomplishments or lack thereof at a time where you don't need to. Like, I don't want to like rail on Adam Schefter, which I feel like I've done like, by the way, like the last 3 months for stupid shit. It's just, it actually gives me caution when talking about these things. I see that and I say like, I don't want to do that because I could see how you're able to do it. And
no, completely.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, like I said, the main takeaway for me in terms of like that whole Twitter fiasco on the day that we all found out and everything that happened was, wow, I really want to be mindful of the things that I do say. Like, yes, you're obviously, people who play sports know that they're going to be criticized for their play and things like that. But I think, you know, especially I feel like with NFL players and things not working out and the awareness of like players' mental health and like the situations that they're in and not knowing all of the detail and thinking we know all of the detail of certain things because reporters are saying one thing, but really it's a big smokescreen for, you know, an agent wanting to prop their guy up or the team wanting to tear that guy down to make the situation a certain way. So I feel like it just reminded me that like, we don't know everything and it's okay to not have a criticism of someone if you don't need to.
Agreed.
And especially during like a sensitive time or when they express that they have things going on or are struggling with certain things. And because I mean, he talked about, you know, struggling with the like noise that was happening and all of the criticism. So it's just something to be mindful of. And I think it's a great reminder for people like us, people who are, you know, quote, journalists, you know, who do this job and are reporting things, as direct as possible because that's what we're taught in journalism school. But you forget that like we're all humans and that's okay. We're allowed to be human and have those human moments. And on the reverse side, like Adam Schefter messed up, he's human as well. And hopefully like this changes things moving forward and people are a little bit more mindful.
There is no good way to segue from that, especially in a podcast that is largely to humans drinking beer. But I'm going to segue to JT Daniels. We haven't had like college football news the last couple of months. I feel like it's been quiet, but there is at least some news. JT Daniels, who I kind of forgot about, Paige, I'm being honest, has a new team. That team is West Virginia. Now, like my first reaction to this was like, I feel like he's like, okay, I need the top 5 teams that I'm not going to get fucking hosed at if I go. That like a Stetson Bennett's going to appear or I'm going to be benched or like give me, and I feel like West Virginia is like ding, ding, ding. Like that's the team. So I actually don't hate it. Like West Virginia is a team that like has flirted with some good wins, has flirted with some really bad losses, has just been like I think I was pretty bullish on them entering. I know I had the win total over last year, and it's been up and down. I want this, like, I want to see who he is. Like, I have no idea other than, you know, this was a kid, like, who, like, you know, before Bryce Young, they went to the same high school. Like, this was the guy. This is one of the, like, the most blue chip quarterback recruits of the last 10 years. And here we are like 3 years later, 4 years later, and we don't have a fucking clue still how good he can be, but we know he's had injury trouble. So I'm excited for him just because I want to know definitively, like, what do we have here?
Yeah, I think this could, like you sort of said, this is more about going to a place where you can just play football. Like there's not really a lot of the noise that he had in the other places that he went to school. What an exhausting journey. I think about even just like transferring once is a lot, but just like multiple times. I think about being a regular student, let alone a student athlete. But you know what? Good for him. And I think he can focus on football. And I really, like you said, I think we're definitely going to see, you know, who he is. It may not be in like the strongest conference in the world on the best team in the world, but you can still pick players out who are good. And I think it's definitely going to help him to be in a better, like more calm, less noisy environment in terms of like reaction to things. Like the reactions aren't as extreme as the other places he's been. So I think mentally for him, that'll be way better.
Yeah, it gets to partner with Graham Harrell again, which is going to be fun. The offense should be better. Dude's got to stay on the field. dude's got to stay on the field. If he does, like, he has a chance to be really, really good. And speaking of, I don't know, really good, really, we got to talk about Clemson. I know spring game. This is the spring game portion of the podcast. Despite Paige's better efforts to not talk about the spring game, I'm not going to talk about the Nebraska spring game. Sorry, Jason, but we should talk about Clemson's spring game. So, okay, our friend DJ, who we have been talking about, and Clemson, like, who looked like a number 1 overall pick as a freshman last year, struggles, accuracy, everything. The offense was bad. They won a bunch of games. Decision-making was bad. All of it. His spring game numbers, and there's 2 sets of numbers I'll go through, but first one, 17 of 36 for 175 yards and an interception. I would not normally worry about spring game numbers, but that stat line is like a perfect synopsis of what we saw last year. Now, I've read that he's going to try and lean down. Like, this is a family of big men.
Human beings,
His dad was 400 pounds and a bodyguard. His younger brother, Mateo, is one of the best, who knows, tight ends or defensive linemen in the country, is 280 pounds and put together. So, like, DJ's weight has always been an issue. So he's trying to get in better shape. Not that he was really in bad shape, but he's trying to refine it. But Paige, I got to say, like, if I'm a Clemson fan or a DJ fan, I would be a little bit alarmed by this, or not really necessarily surprised.
Yeah, there is a tweet out there in the Twitterverse of me saying that I do believe that DJ can take a leap from last year to this year. This is very concerning. Like you said, I don't want to buy too much stock in a spring performance.
Agreed.
But I think one thing that I have noticed is I wish there was a little bit more like fire. Like, I feel like it's like, okay, this will just get better. No worries. Like, we're okay. Like, because they keep it, like, he keeps it very, like, even keel. And it's like, don't get too high when you're high. Don't get too low when you're low. But I don't know. Maybe I think he needs a kick in the pants, and maybe just, what's their schedule like in the beginning of the year?
Well, and also, the kick in the pants that you allude to before we get to the schedule is on campus and played. Cade Klubnik, 5-star quarterback, played 15 of 23. That's the good news.
We did talk about that when we talked about them in our rankings. We did talk about how, like, there is someone waiting in the wing, and that might be the pressure that he needs to really step up. God, their schedule's not really fantastic. They can never, ever, their fans can never, ever, ever complain about Alabama playing no one. I know these out of conference ones are scheduled like 80 years in advance, but yeah, I'm definitely.
I mean, they could lose to. I don't like. I gotta say, the opener versus at Georgia Tech, like, they almost lost that fucking game this year, right? You got at Wake a month in, and then you got Wake and NC State.
Yeah.
These are not, that's like.
They're not bad teams, but this isn't like.
You play Miami at the end of the year. So the problem is, so you have the freshman who played and was fine, but really not all that productive. You've got a really good running back. You've got a team that's coming back from injury. But the DJ, God damn it, Paige, when I saw this when he was a freshman, it was like the surest thing you had. You had like a number 1 player in the class. The surest thing you could have with a quarterback. It really did feel like, honestly, that there was no way that this would end up in the situation that it's in. Not that all hope is lost, but it kind of feels like we're getting towards a way that when he's struggling against Georgia Tech on the road in the opener, people are going to be calling for him to be benched. And I hope that's not the case, because I want him to do well.
Yeah. I mean, I want him to do well too, but you're right. I feel like we're at a point where it's like, okay, either he's good or he's not. Like, he's either made for this or he isn't. And also, like, I don't know if we discussed this at all, but like, if he doesn't end up playing this year and loses his job, does he transfer and go somewhere else? Like, and because of the nature of what we're seeing, I feel like that's just like the road through college, which is so funny because we will get to actually, do you want to talk about Dabo's comments now?
Yes.
That we're talking about Clemson? Because this is actually kind of funny to me that, like, one of his points was that he was like, I don't want to devalue education. I'm like, that's interesting because NIL is keeping kids in school because they're the kids that need the education and aren't going to the NFL or not, or not proving themselves to be, high draft picks or all of that. They're staying because they can make money while still going to school. But I'm curious because of how like college football is now. We're seeing kids, especially with like their COVID year, like there's kids that are there forever. I feel like we're seeing kids play out their full college potential to maximize whatever they can. And now with NIL, I think you're going to see more kids do that. And a guy like DJ is incredibly marketable. I'm curious to see if he's in any Dr. Pepper commercials this year.
No.
But if that's an impact, you never know. Maybe they'll like do it just in case he's good. I don't know. Because like you said, it was a sure thing. But very interesting.
We got to talk. I'm really struggling with the Dabo stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that too. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm more fixated on the spring game than probably the biggest story in college football. I've got I have some quotes. This is from ESPN. I'll read these. There's a handful of them. So here's Dabo. I think there's going to be a complete blow-up, especially in football, and there needs to be. I think eventually there will be some type of break in other divisions. Right now you got everybody in one group. It's not feasible. Alabama has different problems in Middle Tennessee. We're trying to make them all the same, and it's just not. I think you'll have 40 or 50 teams and a commissioner, and here are the rules. I don't necessarily disagree with that. That's not why he's getting in your full of shit, right? No. So here you go to the point. I'm against anything that devalues education. That's what I'm against. I'm for anything that incentivizes education. People come after me because I'm always said I'm against the professionalism of college athletics, and I am. Kids don't know what they don't know. There's a slippery slope if you're a professional college athlete. If you are professionalized college athletes, and now you've got salaries and taxes and blah, 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 blah. What pissed me off is, first off, he basically said he's not going to use the transfer portal. And then when he was asked about his salary, he's like, I'm not going to apologize for success.
Yes.
Okay. And basically talked about it being a free market. Mm-hmm. Dabo, I have interviewed Dabo probably about 10 times. I've sat in his office 3 or 4. I like Dabo. I really do. I think Dabo is a kind man. You talk to players. I've talked to dozens of his players. They love him.
Love him.
And not just bullshit. They love him. It's a weird relationship because I'm not sure a coach has hurt themselves more over the past 3 to 4 years with comments they say like this, which are out of touch, than Dabo. So he runs a program and he quote unquote runs it the right way, right? Air quote. He's a good guy. He's a good man. He cares about his people. Even the stuff with like Venables and Jeff Scott and his coaches, like he wants them to succeed. And yet there's this fucking veil of common sense. Like it's just this thing that like, especially when it comes to athletes getting money, that he just will never come around to. And I'm really torn because I do think Dabo is genuinely mostly really great for college football and has helped out so many people. But this part of it is like, I just want to like snap my fingers in front of him like, dude, no, you can't say these things anymore because you're just going to get dragged for it. And he is.
Well, I thought another interesting comment he made was he said Clemson is still going to get players that Clemson has always gotten despite this. I understand this is part of it. And maybe they don't keep getting players that they used to get because of this. Yes, they're still going to get good players. They're still Clemson. I get it. They are still going to get good players. Are they going to miss out on certain players because of the stance? Sure. In a couple years, and also to his point, basically what he's saying is it's a free market, but we should not make it a free market for kids because they're kids.
He has to grow up, or the game is going to grow up without him.
Also he used an example. He's like, well, the CEO of Delta is probably not being paid as much as the guy who's, putting bags in the plane, but they're equally as important.
Buddy.
These players don't work for you. If your point is that you're trying not to devalue education, they are there to get an education while also playing football. They don't work for you. They play for you.
Yes.
But they don't work for you. So, that is the point, is, those are jobs. That's a legit job. That is a job that you do. These are, if they're kids, it's just unbelievable how dense these, comments are when it's if you really think about it, if you really process everything that you're saying, it's so counterintuitive. I just don't understand why he doesn't see that. And he, like you said, people are always going to criticize him. And like you said, I agree. He's good for football. He's a good person to his core. But come on, let's try and think about our words a little bit when we're talking about student athletes in this manner, especially because we're in a day and age where, like, I'm surprised that there are lots of players that do want to go play for him based on some of this stuff. But like you said, they get to know him personally. So I feel like a lot of it is what he says up front. And yes, he is a good person. But I just wonder, at what point do we, like, start to, like, point out the, like, what you're saying is, like, kind of not
There's some hypocrisy. Right. It's hypocrisy. When you're getting paid $10 million a year, whatever the hell his salary is, because the market deems that's your value.
He's like, I'm 57 years old.
Well, like, but like, you've got TikTokers now that are making... okay.
You like, took the words out of my mouth. I'm like, there are 18-year-old TikTokers that live in $10 million homes that are making so much money. Like, what? So we're saying that, like, college, because people choose to be college football players, that they shouldn't do that? Like, I agree. The market, it's out of control.
It's out of control. And it will correct itself. It will correct itself.
It's because... But yeah.
So are the coaches' salaries. They're out of control.
Yes.
Like, if we want to go down this route and say, you know, a Dabo, a state employee, shouldn't be making this when a Clemson teacher is probably making, you know, 55 or 60 grand a year working as many hours as Dabo. Like, I can do this. Yeah. I can be a dick on this and say, let's do it. Like, and also, here's the other thing. This whole transfer portal thing, it's a separate conversation where he says my transfer portal is sitting in my locker room or on my bench or whatever. Like, buddy, go ahead and say that. But Alabama, and Nick Saban's also kind of complaining about NIL in his way, and not complaining, but basically saying, hey, you know, we're just purchasing players at this point. And he's right.
He said
That's
it's not
it was always
sustainable,
going to be.
which is fair. It's not sustainable. It's happening right now, and they're going to take advantage of it, but it's not sustainable.
You know who sounds like they're doing great in Alabama spring practice? Burton, Gibbs, Ricks. 3 players that were not on that team last year that are probably going to lead Alabama to a college football playoff again. That weren't there. That Nick Saban adapts. And he doesn't agree with it. He certainly doesn't agree with all of this. But he knows that, you know, and he'll strategically say what he does because he knows his voice has influence, and maybe we'll at least, you know, spark some conversations about change.
Yeah.
These are the rules. You got to do it.
Maybe Dabo's heart's in the right place. It just gets lost between his heart and his mouth, because when he says things like, for example, the Delta employee thing, it's like, they don't work for you, and also you're not the ones paying them. NIL is paid. They're being paid for their name, image, and likeness. I understand it's a loophole, but it's just so funny that it's like, it's just so involved in recruiting. It's like, now it's involved in recruiting because it's on the books.
You can't really openly and honestly talk about depriving young people money when you make so much of it. And even if your intentions are pure and deep down Dabo thinks he is right, that these people are too young to have this kind of wealth, and there may be some merit to that. Who knows? When you make this kind of money, you're so susceptible to just being absolutely shit on every time you try to make a genuine point about it. I think very, very difficult.
This is something that I was taught by my mom, that you can't complain about things if you can't come to the table with a solution, or you want to be part of the solution. And I think for Dabo, he was asked in this interview, what are you doing to help the players that are coming to Clemson that are doing NIL stuff, whatever? If he's so concerned about it, then he needs to be involved with their compliance office and figuring out a way to make sure these kids know how to handle their money, know how not to be taken advantage of in these situations. But guess what? If that's not part of your quote job, then don't worry about this. Then if it's not affecting you, don't worry about it.
Meanwhile, Alabama set up its like NIL chapter this week. Just you know.
Exactly. That's my point though. Is like don't come to the table. I think that's the issue that I have with him, is that he complains a lot about these things and gets mad and gives us all these analogies for what's happening, but never has like a solution. And I guess his solution is it needs to be blown up. But I mean, that's even
not a solution though. Like it's not. That's a lazy solution. Like
it's a lazy solution.
I do admire though. Like literally for the last 5 years, he's had the same take, And he gets fucking dragged every time.
Well,
but
he
he's
tweaks
like,
it a little
one
to
day at
make
a
it
press
where
conference,
he's like, I'm all for name, image, and likeness. But, like...
fuck this. Yes, but blow it up.
And to be fair, like you said, I think he's a good person. I think he's good for football. He's a great football coach. We know these things. I just don't understand why he hasn't evolved. I think that's the part that bothers me is people that stay the same.
Yes.
Like, the game is clearly changed.
No, he is actually so genuine to himself and to people that you're getting all of him for better or worse. Like, and again, I go off of what I've heard from a lot of people and just time spent in evaluating him, in doing interviews in this massive office and looking down at his shoes. And these are probably 10-year-old shitty boat shoes. Like, you could read a lot about somebody's shoes. And Dabo is just Dabo. The haircut, the shoes, I would
love to spend a day with him. Just like seeing how he interacts with people. I would just love to spend a day, like a Monday with him during the season and just see what it's like.
Yes.
Maybe we do that.
We should do that. Their facility is awesome. Mini golf course, nap room, barbershop. Slide, which I've done.
Wait, you have?
Uh-huh. Yeah. First time I was there like 3 or 4 months after it opened.
In their facility?
And Tim, oh God, why am I blanking his last name? But he was like their longtime SAD who's now retired, one of the nicest humans in the sport. I'm like looking at the slides and he's just like, you want to do that, don't you? I'm like, goddamn right, I want to do that. Yeah. So, road trip to Clemson.
Yeah, I doubt that they let us in after this rant, but I mean...
quick Clemson story. I am doing a profile. I forget on who. It may have been a Dabo profile. This was probably 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago.
Okay. If
you've driven from Greenville to Clemson, it's about an hour. And I got in late, flight delayed, and it's really fucking dark. Like, it is really dark at night. So I'm driving on this road, and I am lost, despite the fact that I've been there before. I'm speeding. I get pulled over. Okay. I don't think I've been pulled over since. I am not a speeder. Okay. I don't know what the speed limit is. So I get pulled over. Cop comes up. Hey, what are you doing? I say, I'm really sorry, man. I'm kind of lost. Like, there's no lights out here. I go, he's like, oh, it's all good. And then, I'm like, all right, I'm going to drop it. I'm like, I'm doing a story on Clemson and Dabo, and I'm interviewing him. I did. Oh, I totally did. And he goes, Dabo, that is a great, great man. I'll tell you, your exit is right up here. You follow me. So he gets up, like, this is like 1 a.m, gets on the road, and I follow him off the exit, find my hotel. He gave me a road to my hotel. Like, and I wasn't speeding that bad. No ticket. Oh, obviously, no ticket. And I said that I was there doing a story about him. I'm sure I don't know, maybe he has heard that before. And I was just, I'm like, hey, man, I don't know what there's no signs here. Dabo, that is a great man. I'm going to take you. And I got an escort. So,
yeah. I mean, he's in the perfect place for the people that worship him, literally. But that is an amazing story. I'm glad you used it to your advantage.
Yes.
Anything for football. Like, in certain places, you can really drop that. Like, if this was like Tucson, Arizona, you could be like, look, I'm doing a story on the Arizona basketball team, and they'd be like, go ahead, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
Sports rule all, really, is what we're saying. So if you get in trouble in a city or state, just think of where you could be going.
Yes, for sure.
Be like, sorry, my kid, I'm meeting him at the whatever game. It's his first one. Really play that up and see how it works.
Sports.
Don't break the law,
when you can get yourself out of a ticket. But
don't speed.
Goddamn. It was not good. Not good driving by me. Good driving by, look at this segue.
Oh.
Scotty Scheffler in the Masters. So I am trying to figure, I love golf. We obviously devoted a lot of time to the Masters last segment. I'm trying to figure out if I don't hate Scotty Scheffler by any means, but he's not like uber likable either. Like, he's, you know what I mean? Like, the personality and like, it's just, I'm trying to he's amazing. He's having one of the greatest years so far ever, but I'm trying to get the spirit to catch on here.
Okay. So I don't agree with this, but this is my take on why you feel that way. Because he sort of looks like every other, like, tax accountant or, like, former frat president who's turned tax accountant. And if he wasn't good at golf, like, you wouldn't.
Unassuming.
You wouldn't.
He doesn't look like he's going to kill a golfer like Justin Thomas does. He's not
he's not fazed.
Ripped. No, he's just like a droid that's amazing at golf. And the scene with his wife obviously was really, really cool. That was where I was like, okay, I'm starting to get the vibes of this.
And when he talked about like having cried to her before and was like super vulnerable, I sort of appreciated that because especially in the sport of golf, to like admit that you were like because he's cool, calm, and collected on the course, but to admit that you were extremely vulnerable in a moment of being cool. I don't know if I can do this was amazing. I will say his wife, something that I've noticed over his course of winning over the last few months is that she is fully prepared in terms of fashion to be there waiting for the winner at these tournaments.
She knows the camera's coming.
Impressed. I looked up how much her dress. I wanted to buy the dress that she was wearing when she greeted him. Yeah, it's $600. And for all my TikTok people, yeah, we're in a different tax bracket. That's a sound you wouldn't get it, but
that's a pretty
but
an expensive dress.
I like Scottie Scheffler. I really do because I do think that I don't know, like maybe he's going to be what we thought Jordan was going to be. That might be really
well. That's an interesting point because Justin Thomas was there, and he's kind of held on. Like Justin Thomas is still there, doing his thing. But is this like we could be seeing? Is this the one?
Is this the one who like we weren't necessarily like paying attention to? But I do have to say this. If I have to hear one more time that Scottie Scheffler went to the same high school as Matt Stafford and Clayton Kershaw, I'm going to scream. I get that you guys, that detail is cool and that he won his first, he had his first tour win the day that the Rams won the Super Bowl at the Waste Management. Oh, but like, I get it. But just enough. I mean, the tweets were like days later. I'm like, we understand. They also didn't, it's not like they were friends and went there at the same time. All of that stuff.
No.
But just for that, the golf broadcast, please come up with something else.
It's an easy. It's definitely an easy factoid.
Well, and then there is the factor that like, okay, Jordan also personality wise, like people rooted for him for sure, but Jordan had like a side of him where we'd see him get really upset about things and stuff like that. And I feel like with Scottie Scheffler, he has the like mental strength that maybe Jordan didn't have. And like also Jordan's now had to change his swing and all this stuff because of just everything that compiled for him mentally. And I'm curious because of the mentality that Scottie Scheffler has, if like that plays more. I mean, he's obviously very good at golf. Like that's sure. Beside the point. But watching some of the guys that we've like put as like the next whoever over the years, he's the first that I've seen that really has kept his mental game in check. Because even JT has his moments. Even this week he was pissed, but I mean that's how he gets himself like revved up. I feel like when Jordan gets mad, that's it. You take him out of it. JT gets mad, it's like okay, he might come out of this better and it might be okay. But a guy I do want to talk about that has been criticized so much.
Oh boy,
is Rory McIlroy because. Obviously, the Masters is the one major that he hasn't won for the career Grand Slam. And every year we hear the stories about all of this and talk about a guy who's had mental struggles and has walked off courses, thrown fits, all of the things. But now he's like married, has a kid, and I was watching the like golf channel, like of him just like putting and like getting warmed up and stuff. And before the tournament started, and they were like, yeah, I mean, I just don't think Rory can be selfish enough to be able to win the Masters and more majors because he just like has other things that he's focused on, which is not a bad thing, but like I just think that may get in the way. And that made me so mad because I feel like we've seen like the best version of Rory ever since he's like gotten married and had a kid. And like you've been able to see him like sort of regroup and be able to do things and hold himself to a different like standard. Like, I don't know. It just annoyed me that was what they were saying, because I understand the thought process of like Tiger, and like you can equate it to like Kobe. Like that was their thing. That was their focus. It was all that mattered. And yes, they had other things, but like they really were selfish in certain ways to make these things happen. But I don't think it has to be that way for everyone. And I think for someone like Rory, he was in a very selfish phase for a while and it didn't work. So I think this is going to help him balance it out. And also watching him on Sunday was like one of the most exciting things ever, because it just looked like he was so happy. And yes. I mean, that moment with him and Colin Morikawa at 18 was probably one of the best golf
Nick
moments.
Shit on? Yes.
Yeah, that he ruined. Well, it was, I mean, I was so pissed because as soon as he said it, I knew exactly who he was talking about too. I was like, no. But I think that was a big, beautiful golf moment that had nothing to do with like, yes, of course it was cool that they both hit those out of the bunker, but like it was cool to just see them both cheering for each other and both being excited for each other. And it kind of brought the human aspect back to golf a little bit.
Well, you know, Rory is like, the problem with Rory, if you've ever been to a tournament and been on a range and watched him swing, you wonder, why the fuck will this guy ever lose a golf tournament ever again?
Yes, it's like, ridiculous.
It is, his ball is so much higher. The swing is beautiful. Like, I'm not going to do this golf swing expert guy, but you just watch them like side by side and you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest golfer I've ever seen. And you get the moments like you got on Sunday. Like, I think when Rory's game is on, it's like, it is magic. There's something about it. It's just magic to watch. It's something that I haven't seen with Scheffler. Like we're saying, oh, is it like Rory has magic? And the problem is too, like post Tiger, he's coming in as Tiger's transitioning to the back half, and they were friends and attached at the hip. So like, we probably set the expectations ridiculously high, and his golf swing allowed us to do it. The interesting thing about Rory, though, you're right. Like, so he became a family man. Mm-hmm. And you talk about like perspective and quotes and poignant viewpoints and deep, honest thoughts. Like he's the best quote in golf. Like, he'll say exactly what it is on anything. That is, I mean, everything, like social issues, golf issues, like everything. Like Rory has become kind of the vocal, like, you know, center point of the sport. And I think that's awesome. Like, it doesn't have to always be about winning, but Jesus, when he is on, and this is where I think people are like, struggle with Rory, because when he is on, the presentation is so incredible that it's hard to think about anything else. Yeah. No, God, I love him.
I mean, I'm convinced if there was a future out there that Rory would eventually win a Masters, like I'm team he'll win a Masters for sure before his career is over.
How old is he? Like
he's not that old.
I mean,
but the fact that's the thing though. The fact that like, because now, he's had his struggles at Augusta, which is fair.
He's 32 only. I mean,
and people are legitimately like capping on him for the fact that he has like other things in his life. I mean, golfers play until forever, and they've all had families and all of these things. Tiger is more of a family person now than he was before. Like, I don't know. Like, it just...
when he got bulked up, we shit on that. Well, not we. I think it's great. Like, we everything he has done is met with some sort of recoil. So people just need to, you know, the guy's worth, I don't know what his net worth is, probably over $100 million. Like,
yeah, something ridiculous.
Like, you know what? Sometimes, like, as is just fine. And if I'm Rory McIlroy, like, it doesn't have to be Tiger cutthroat. I will do anything to win this green jacket. Like, it, you know, that's an unfair bar. That was clearly said.
It doesn't have to be that way. I think people got so spoiled with how, you know, Tiger's mental game and how, you know, it's like some people can be like that. Some people don't have to. Scotty Scheffler, like, there's no world, like, no offense to Tiger, because I love Tiger. Obviously, very happy to see him back out there. But there's no world that Tiger Woods says in a press conference that he cried before his last round at Augusta.
Fucking Terminator.
Because there's no way. But, like, again, this is somebody who's, like, has control of his, like, he's able to, like, put that aside and say, okay, I'm going to dominate and I'm going to be great. Like, that's just, there's just something special about being able to do that in a different way that's not the way that like Tiger did it, but I still think he'll be very successful. And I do like Scottie Scheffler, but I get why I think I'm trying to remember where I heard that, where someone also said that take of like, he doesn't strike me as somebody that like we would normally like, he just doesn't have like the athlete vibe at all.
My last take on this will be when he's screwing around with putting on 18. I know he had strokes to spare. I had such anxiety, Paige.
All right.
Like, I'm like, oh no, don't. And like, if you lost bets, because people lost bets because of that. In terms of overall, I mean, like, and I don't think he would have missed it. Like, it's an awkward situation to have that kind of a lead. Yeah, exactly. But
I mean,
I had to watch that through my hands. Like, it was painful.
It like hurt because you also just like feel bad, but also I think about like me in those moments. Like, there's no way I wouldn't be able to hit a single putt if it was like silence. There's all these people.
Shaking. I mean, it would be on the green, and I think I agree though. By the way, the honesty of like that he cried that he wasn't worthy, like, that's pretty cool. He's already grown on me in processing that. Because
leave it to me to try and convince you, because I will convince you that the nice guy finishes first always. But
well, if he keeps kicking ass too, by the way, we're just all
he's very good at golf. Yeah,
it's just like that's gonna like we will have no choice but to say like all hail like the greatest golfer in the universe.
Yeah, Scottie Scheffler. But
yes,
yeah, I mean it was such a fun Masters, and I felt like there was so much like life brought back into it, and it was really fun, and I'm sad that it's over. I also really want to go next year, really want to go. I also, if this is a PSA, I tried to get Open Championship tickets. Okay, I submitted my ballot, didn't get any. If anyone would like to spare a ticket, I will fly overseas and go to St. Andrews, because there's nothing more that I want than to go with you.
You're asking for it. Yes.
If anyone who listens to this podcast, send this episode specifically to everybody that works at Golden Tee that may have a friend that works at the PGA Tour. Just do what you can. I feel like I need to be there. Tiger said he's going. I have to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. We need to do a pod from the Masters next year. Just saying.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Actually, I told you this last week that I like made azaleas. Those will get you. Get you.
Yeah, it's trouble.
I also will say I did have a friend who was at the Masters this year with her dad. He's like a football coach in Alabama. His name is Nick Saban. But
I may have saw that on the gram.
Yeah, on the gram. But the best part is, I don't know if you've seen the picture. I just wanted to give Kristen a shout out, because the funniest picture is of Nick watching JT, and in the back there's like 3 people between them, strangers. But Kristen was standing like 3 people away from him, and she said, "I saw the camera guy." And I was like, "This is my moment." And she's like, "I leaned this way." And there's a picture of Nick just like seriously looking, watching the golf. And
I did see the serious Nick. Oh,
and Kristen is just like in the background 3 people later. And I was like, you need to frame that, because that is amazing. I feel like a golf tournament, any golf tournament really, we should go to, because I feel like we would have a great time. I feel like we're going to need to get a summer get together with like the Kramer crew.
The tailgate. Like, we get out and, just saying, I've got tickets to every PGA Tour non-Augusta edition of it. I'm just saying.
I'll go to any.
Starting to plot my summer tours here.
I love out and about. It's actually funny. I tweeted, I think, gosh, it was at the beginning of the year where I was like, would you rather go to a golf tournament or watch on TV? Most people would love to watch on TV because of like the Waste Management Open is a little different.
It depends on the tournament. It really does.
It really does. Like, if you've ever been to Pebble Beach, like that going, like, I'm like, I don't care who's like, I don't care who's
majestic.
Golfing. It's the most beautiful. It's legitimately the most beautiful golf course I've ever been to.
It is spectacular.
Yes, God, Pebble.
You go to these tournaments. At least I do, for the courses.
Yes,
not
that's
same.
Same.
The best ones you go. Augusta's that way. Pebble Beach is absolutely that way. TBC Sawgrass, I think it can be that way as well. It's we got to get out. We got to get out. Golf is in a good place too. That's my resounding takeaway. Is like, God, there's so many good young players.
Think about it. Like, we're gonna get a documentary from this season.
Oh, I know.
Also, like, this is like news that's like happening today. But like the Saudi League is back again, and there's like more rumors of people actually being a part of it. Is this a joke again? Like I don't know what's happening.
No, it's
is it real?
It's real. It's
that
real.
Bubba and Kevin Na.
I've got some sources. It's like every golfer you hate watching on Sundays is going to probably be announced for this thing. It's pretty interesting.
What about Phil? Has anyone heard from him? Does anybody know where he is?
I think he's still laying low, but there's a lot of money, but probably not a lot of other high profile golfers to go with it. So all I'm saying, I'll say this: if you're a golfer listening to this, going to that tour, good luck, buddy. Like good luck. I'll leave it at that. All right, we got to get to our team. By the way, we don't have picks, but we do have pints. Two-Hearted Ale. I've done this before. Yeah, I'm going to say it, Paige. It's a top 12. Well, here's all right. Let me see. Top 10 drinkable IPA. Okay. I don't think it's in my top 5 like IPAs, period. But if you're at an event and you know you're going to be there for a while and you only have one beer, Two-Hearted Bells, great brewery, is like a beer you can lean into a bit. I like which I leaned into this one.
I cannot drink IPAs. If I think the mission should be to find an IPA that I can drink. I don't know what it is.
I choose to accept that mission. Okay. I think I could. I think we could make it happen.
But we do need to talk about our top 25.
Yes. Do we need to recite our teams that we've done?
Yeah, screw it up. I put them in list form for us because I'm organized. Well, there's a new tab on the doc.
Oh my God! Look at that. I was wondering what that was. Clearly, okay. So here it is via Paige. This is all credit to you. Number 1, we had Alabama. Number 2, we both had Ohio State. Number 3, we both had Georgia. Number 4, I had Texas A&M. You had Clemson. Then I had Utah and Texas A&M. Then Clemson and Utah. And then we were back on track with Notre Dame. Yeah. So to date, all of the same teams have been used, just in slightly different orders. Are we going to keep that consistent? Or you can kick us off. What's the verdict here for number 8?
So I told you that I was debating between a couple teams. This is where it gets weird for me because I also don't, there's so much change amongst like the teams that come next, or just like the fact that they're even involved in these conversations, which we'll get to. But I am going to stick to the same page as you and go Michigan because I do think the leap that they made this year is just too big to like overlook. And it's not like they're losing a decent amount and also coordinator wise and all of that stuff. But I feel like they've turned a corner, and like Michigan, I don't want to say Michigan is back because that was another team I was debating. A team that's notoriously always back. But
oh God.
Yeah, but what I'm not going to do to myself, I will wait. I'll be patient on that one. But I think that they are a good team. I think they're in the hunt. I think they're coming off a Big Ten title. Like, just, I don't know. I feel like I don't want to shit on Harbaugh because he's done that so much, and I don't want to be back on that train again. I feel like him being good was good for football this year. Michigan being good was good. And I hate when people say that, like, oh, when the Blue Bloods are good, it's good for whatever. I'm like, ugh.
No, but it was good.
I think it's good. I think it's good when there's no like beat down versus Ohio State, and like that game is actually interesting.
They lose. So this is my team too. The concern I think will be on defense. Obviously, Hutchinson could be the number 1 overall pick. You've got Daxton Hill. You lose like 2 of the best edge rushers in college football. Like your pass rushers being gone hurt. And then on the offense, it's like the opposite. You've got McNamara and McCarthy. I think it's one of the most interesting storylines in the sport because both looked really good. Their running backs were awesome. Their receivers, they had some injuries, should be better. Like, I know they lose Gaddis, which I think is a huge loss. That's a painful one because he was great for them. But I think the offense could be really dynamic. Like,
yes,
you still got the Ohio State thing to deal with, and I know you slayed that dragon, but you go to Ohio State this year, and Ohio State's offense is going to be ridiculous. You worry about that. I think the one thing that if you're Michigan, Harbaugh really does develop talent quite well when you look at the last couple of years. So the defensive line, like, yes, that's a problem, but he's gonna stockpile that. So
yeah, there
are holes for sure, but I think the offense. I'm really curious to see. That Georgia game, playoff game, was interesting. they got their asses kicked. That part wasn't interesting. But the quarterback situation, McNamara was so solid, but then you watch McCarthy come in and is really got gifts.
Yeah.
Like, really has gifts. That is a compelling, they played both of them last year. McCarthy was like their, was the special package, like running QB. I don't know how they work that. That's a great situation to be in, but it's also a difficult one I think they have.
That's what when I was looking between teams, that's what I noticed was that like everything that's been talked about, even their like spring games, because I think it was McCarthy didn't play because he's dealing through some sort of injury, but they were saying like no matter what quarterback situation they end up in, it's a good one, and that's always a positive.
This is not a Clemson situation. We talked about a spring game with 2 quarterbacks playing. Like, this is a situation where 2 are good. Mm-hmm. But I'm a little surprised.
Consistent, actually, we should say.
That there wasn't, yes. I'm a little surprised that one of them has not transferred, to be honest. Like I thought McNamara would transfer. I'm assuming he's still not in it. Because McCarthy was the 5-star kid recruited, and you feel like it's going to be his team. But maybe not. Like, it's a really interesting race to watch. And again, if one of those kids does transfer, it's going to be huge because they are really, I think both of them are really, really, could be really good in the right situation.
Yeah. I
mean, we'll see what happens.
Do you think part of it had to do with like every quarterback transferring this year and like the options?
Probably.
Not to say that he's not good and couldn't go somewhere good, but it's just like, would you rather be on a team that's like competing for a playoff spot, or would you rather go to a team that you like? I don't know. And I think that's also something that Jim Harbaugh would sell really well. Like if I were he would totally be like, would you rather do this or would you rather do this? We can do it together. We're brothers. Like all of those things. Well,
I think both of them probably think they're going to win the job too. And probably rightfully so. Like, I mean, McNamara, like outside of like had that throw against Ohio State, but otherwise was awesome. Like, So I mean, it could be like a Jalen Tua situation where they like actually really respected each other, and clearly it worked out for both of them. So, no, I'm with you. All right, so we're still clean through 8. We have the same teams.
I need to put Michigan in the doc for both of us now, so we remember Michigan.
The number, however, the horrible I said number earlier.
No, what did you say number for?
It had 17 syllables, the way I said it.
It just sounded like you were maybe like talking to one of your kids.
It's about right. Okay, so next week I teased Disney. I'm going to Disney in less than 2 weeks. I have to bring you behind the curtain, as I like to say, for my planning and the stress that this is causing me in my life. I have learned so much about this trip. I don't know if that's a selling point for next week's pod, but it's coming regardless.
So next week's our last pod before you head out?
We will have to figure out a Disney pod. Yes.
If we're going to go full Disney theme, there's lots of things that we can talk about because I personally love Disney. Like I told you last time, I'm not a Disney adult because there's a negative connotation there, but I did listen to like a very exciting Disney song before we recorded, get myself pumped up, you know?
Well, then next week, I guess will be the Disney installment of No Punts Allowed.
Yes.
Sort of as a counter of what my beliefs are in a lot of ways, or the way I display myself in most of these pods. But I've learned a lot. I will give you my breakdown. We won't swear
the whole podcast. It'll be a G-rated podcast that you could listen to with your kids.
Maybe. But yes, that will be there. And of course, we'll get more news now and some draft stuff. We should talk a little draft stuff because it is interesting, and I think some of our we've talked about some of our players that we like. I want to talk about the quarterbacks next week because I think the quarterback part of this is actually kind of intriguing, and one of the guys I'm writing about, Tease. Yeah. So with that, we will do that.
Hilarious. I was just thinking about how like, you know how when people have like merch shops for their podcasts and things like that, and obviously something you and I will definitely consider. But I was thinking like the thing we see the most is like peek behind the curtain, but like that's just such a creepy shirt.
It's not
like that's not like, the best. Like I feel like we have to find a way to we just have to like find a way to make that. But it's like you can't change it. It's too good, and that's become like a staple phrase on this podcast.
It just might not be a T-shirt.
Yeah,
like, it may not be. It might be a lanyard or a koozie.
Or a koozie. Peek behind the curtain.
Probably not a pair of pants either. But it is this phrase that we use a lot. And we do need a merch shop.
We do.
All
we'll
right.
get that going this summer. We got it. We'll do it. We promise.
All right. Sort of. Yes. For Paige, I'm Adam. Thank you guys. We will talk next week.